Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into the story of a city that's, well, worn many hats over its incredibly long life. Bonn, Germany.
That's right. And we've got a really interesting stack of material here, sort of diving into Bonn's deep history, looking at its lively cultural scene now, and guiding us through what it's like to visit today.
Yeah, our goal is basically to unearth the hidden gems and, the key insights within this material. Understand what makes Bonn.
And pull out the most fascinating nuggets for you, the listener.
Exactly.
It's quite a journey, isn't it? Tracing its transformation from like a Roman fort on the Rhine, through medieval power struggles, becoming Beethoven's birthplace, even serving as a national capital.
And now a big player in international cooperation and culture. It's a lot.
It really is.
Okay, so let's unpack this right at the very beginning. We're talking over 2,000 years ago. The material shows Bonn's roots are firmly Roman, starting around, 12 BCE?
With the military outpost Bonn strategically placed right there on the Rhine.
And that location wasn't just random, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. It was crucial for, controlling trade routes and defending the northern edge of the Roman Empire. And what's fascinating is the archaeological evidence highlighted things like remnants of baths, fortifications, even foundations of villas.
Wow.
It doesn't just show soldiers were there, it suggests a pretty significant established community that really laid the groundwork for the city's future.
So even when the Roman era faded, Bonn didn't just, vanish.
No, not at all. The material notes its place within the Frankish kingdom and how it gradually evolved into a regional hub, still a vital crossroads, basically.
Its geography just kept being important.
Exactly, it just kept paying dividends. And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. As we move into the Middle Ages, Bonn truly solidified its position. It became a significant political and religious center. From the late 13th century, the sources show it was the chosen residence for the powerful Prince Archbishops of Cologne.
And having those big figures based there must have completely changed the city's standing, right?
Totally. And the material points to specific medieval landmarks that were central to this shift, places like the Peterskirche.
Which is noted as one of Germany's oldest churches still standing.
Yeah, incredible. And the impressive Bonner Minster Cathedral. They were like powerful symbols of Bonn's rising church importance.
You can almost picture it.
Well, you can still feel that medieval fabric today, walking through the old town as described in the material. Those narrow streets, the historic market squares, they really sort of whisper stories of that era.
And it wasn't just about religion or politics.
No, the sources even mention Bonn's economic links. It was a member of the Hanseatic League, which shows it played a part in those wider European trade networks.
So despite all the conflicts and power shifts the material mentions, Bonn managed to persist, kept its identity, and even a cultural spark through those early centuries.
Right. And then, fast forward through the Renaissance and Baroque periods, and the material describes this transformation, grand architecture, a blossoming cultural scene.
Okay, and the standout example mentioned is the Elector's Palace, right? The Kurfürstliches Schloss.
Yes, built in the late 17th, early 18th centuries. This wasn't just a building, it was a clear statement. Bonn was significant, the residence of the Prince Electors.
These were the guys who helped choose the Holy Roman Emperor.
That's them. Really powerful figures. And what's particularly insightful from the material is how this landmark fits in today.
How so?
Well, it now houses a big part of the University of Bonn. So you've got this direct living link between Bonn's past as a political power center and its present as a center of learning.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that whole Baroque era with its focus on arts and music, well, it really set the stage for something world-changing.
Which brings us to the big question. How did a city steeped in all this political and religious history, with this growing cultural scene, become forever linked with, one of the giants of music?
That brings us, of course, to Ludwig van Beethoven, born right there in Bonn, 1770.
In the thick of it.
Exactly. And the material gives us a sense of his early life, his education in the city. Bonn at that time wasn't some, quiet backwater. It was influenced by Enlightenment ideas, a vibrant atmosphere. It seems like it provided fertile ground for his genius,
Yeah, you can imagine. And his legacy.
Yeah.
The sources make it clear it didn't just add to Bonn's story, it fundamentally boosted its cultural profile.
Absolutely. His connection basically turned Bonn into a pilgrimage site for music lovers worldwide. The material details how this led to things like dedicated festivals, the Beethoven Fest venues like the Beethoven Hall, and especially the Beethoven House Museum.
Which is still a huge draw, I gather.
Huge. And the sources suggest it didn't just attract visitors, it helped kind of anchor Bonn's identity through all the political changes that came later.
Okay, so moving into the 19th century.
Yeah.
More big changes.
Right.
Napoleonic Wars, Congress of Vienna.
Yeah, a really intense period of upheaval. The sources explain how Bonn was initially absorbed into Napoleon's French Empire.
Right.
And then after 1815, it became part of the Kingdom of Prussia. That was its formal integration into the modern German state framework.
So part of Prussia now. How did that change things?
Well, this period saw Bonn transform yet again. It developed into a significant center for administration, education, and early industry. But what's particularly impactful, according to the material, was the founding of the University of Bonn in 1818.
That seems like a big deal.
It was a genuine milestone, not just adding a school, It seriously elevated the city's standing as a hub for learning and research. It attracted top scholars, students, really contributed to its intellectual life.
And alongside that, the material mentions industrialization kicking in.
Yep, the economic ripples from things like coal mining, manufacturing, and the Rhine River, always important, becoming even more crucial as a transportation artery.
You can see the city growing.
Oh yeah. The sources point to urban expansion, modernization. You get railways, new bridges, public buildings, changing the actual look and feel of the city, reflecting its growing importance within Prussia.
Then we hit the 20th century. Obviously, huge challenges, World War II.
Immense challenges, including damage from bombing, although the material does note, thankfully, that a good chunk of the historic center survived.
Which is good news.
Definitely. And then came the decision that would, redefine Bonn for nearly half a century.
The capital city era.
Exactly. Here's where it gets really interesting again. In 1949, Bonn was chosen, provisional capital of the new West Germany.
Why Bonn, though? The sources say it was mainly pragmatic.
Largely, yeah. Its location in the West, its relatively manageable size compared to, say, heavily bombed cities like Berlin or Frankfurt, and it had some existing infrastructure. It was just a practical choice in a really difficult time.
And becoming the capital must have triggered just massive changes.
Oh, dramatic and rapid transformation. Suddenly, it's the seat of the federal government, the parliament, all the ministries. Its whole political, economic, social structure gets reshaped almost overnight.
Wow.
You see rapid population growth, infrastructure scrambling to keep up, and even though some people initially thought its status might be temporary...
Right, like a placeholder?
Kind of. But Bonn played a really critical role in West Germany's post-war recovery and was a steady hand during the whole Cold War era.
And that capital era, over 40 years,
Yeah.
it must have also really deepened Bonn's cultural life and international links.
Absolutely. It naturally became a hub for diplomatic activity, international conferences, that kind of thing.
Makes sense.
And the material highlights how this led to Bonn hosting numerous international organizations. It specifically mentions the UNFCCC Secretariat, that's the UN climate change body.
Okay, important stuff.
And various other UN agencies, too. This wasn't just about having offices there. It seriously boosted Bonn's global reputation as a city committed to sustainability, international cooperation.
And presumably the cultural scene thrived with all these new people.
Totally. Supported by a growing, more cosmopolitan population. The material describes how theaters, museums like the Kunstmuseum Bonn, music venues like the Beethoven Hall just flourished.
It sounds like the city managed to grow without losing its soul, maybe.
That's a good way to put it. The sources describe this blend of historical charm. They kept a lot of the traditional architecture alongside the necessary modern urban development. Plus, the universities and research institutes kept expanding, fostering innovation.
Okay, so connecting this to the bigger picture. The next huge shift. German reunification in 1990.
Yep. And the decision for Berlin to become the capital again.
Which must have been a massive adjustment for Bonn.
Understandably, yeah. Required big economic and structural changes. But the material gives insight into how Bonn didn't just, sit back. It proactively reinvented itself.
How did it do that?
Well, it consciously leaned into its strengths, focused on becoming a strong center for international cooperation, education, culture, things it was already good at.
Building on what was already there.
Exactly. And the Berlin-Bonn Act helped too, making sure many federal institutions stayed, which sort of cushioned the transition.
So it really solidified this modern identity as a hub for...
What?
What? Sustainable development? Environmental policy?
Global governance, yeah. And the material highlights how its current appeal. You know, the green spaces, the lovely riverside promenades, the preserved historic districts attracts a really diverse mix of people today, visitors and residents alike.
Okay, so let's shift focus a bit. Talk about experiencing Bonn today. The material seems packed with details on attractions and stuff.
Oh, definitely. And that deep connection to Beethoven we talked about, it's absolutely central if you're visiting.
Right, the Beethoven House Museum.
Yeah, in the Old City. The material guides us there, detailing what you can see, original manuscripts, letters, instruments. It's a really tangible link to the composer. Described not just as a museum, but a global attraction with interactive bits, concerts.
Sounds essential for music fans.
For sure. And just exploring the old town, the Altstadt, is key for feeling the city's history. The material paints this picture of its character, cobblestone streets, market squares, that blend of architectural styles over centuries.
You got the Bonner Münster there.
Anchoring the area with its ancient roots, yeah. And the elegant Altes Rathaus, the old city hall. And woven into all that history is this vibrant modern life cafes spilling out onto sidewalks, interesting little shops, plenty of restaurants.
Nice. What about museums beyond Beethoven?
Bonn boasts an impressive scene there too. The material points us to the Kunstmuseum Bonn.
That's the modern and contemporary art one.
Exactly, with a strong focus on German Expressionism artists like August Macke, Kirchner, Nolde.
Right.
And for the historical perspective, there's the Haus der Geschichte, the House of History, offers a really comprehensive, engaging look at post-WWII German history. Division, reunification, all explored through quite immersive exhibits.
You get art and history covered.
Definitely. It gives you a fantastic look at different facets of German culture and politics.
But the material also stresses balancing culture with nature, right? The Rhino Park.
Oh yeah, it's highlighted as this large green oasis right by the Rhine, perfect for escaping the city buzz for a bit.
What can you do there?
Walking, cycling, sports, they have events there.
Right.
Or just relaxing outdoors. It's described as having a real community atmosphere. And of course, the Riverside Promenade itself is a must for scenic views. Maybe hop on one of those boat tours mentioned.
So lovely.
Another gem mentioned is the combo of Poppelsdorf Palace and its botanical gardens.
Ah, the palace is Baroque.
Beautiful Baroque structure, yeah, linked to the university. But the botanical gardens are something else. The material emphasizes their incredible diversity species from all over the globe, thematic sections, impressive tropical greenhouses.
So good for plant lovers and history buffs.
Both cultural and educational richness, definitely.
And if you time your visit right, the cultural calendar sounds packed. Besides the big Beethoven Fest in September?
Oh yeah, there's the incredibly lively Bonn Carnival, usually February or March. Huge Rhineland tradition, parades, costumes, citywide parties.
Sounds intense.
It is. The material also mentions seasonal stuff, like culinary festivals, a street food festival, and the magical Christmas market with all the traditional treats, plus sporting events, marathon, cycling, and international festivals like the Africa Festival.
Which focuses on music, dance, art.
Exactly. Noted for its scale and really showcasing Bonn's multicultural side. Food, too, of course.
Speaking of food, does the material mention local specialties?
It gives us a taste, yeah. Hints at traditional Rhineland dishes you might find, like Himmel and Aid.
Heaven and earth. What's that?
Potatoes and apples, usually with blood sausage, or Rheinischer Sauerbraten, that marinated beef roast. Rhinefish, too, plus weekly markets like the Wochenmarkt for fresh stuff, and that strong cafe culture, especially in the Old Town and near the uni.
Sounds like you eat well there.
Seems like it. And when the sun goes down, the material suggests a good mix, cozy traditional pubs, various bars, clubs, even special events like a night of the museums.
And finally, the material mentions Bonn as a good base for exploring the area.
Yeah, excellent location. Day trips are easy to places like Schloss Drachenberg, that romantic castle overlooking the Rhine.
Oh, I think I've seen pictures of that.
Probably. Or hiking in the Siebengebirge Nature Park nearby, and exploring other charming Rhine Valley towns like Königswinter or Bad Honnef, maybe some wine tasting, another river cruise. Lots of options.
So bringing it all together, what's the main takeaway from all this?
Well, looking across this really rich tapestry, the material clearly shows Bonn's journey is one of remarkable resilience, constant adaptation.
Yeah, it really emphasizes a city that masterfully blends its deep historical layers, Roman, medieval, Baroque, Beethoven with its more recent identities.
Right, as this global hub for education, international cooperation, sustainability, it's a city that seems to really honor its past while confidently embracing a forward-looking future.
All wrapped up in this vibrant cultural package.
Exactly. And for you listening, perhaps Bonn's story offers insight into how cities aren't static things, right? They're dynamic, they transform over millennia, keeping echoes of the past while forging new paths.
Or maybe it just provides some inspiration for exploring a city that genuinely caters to so many different interests. History, music, art, nature, food, international affairs. It's all there.
It really is.
It kind of leaves you pondering, though.
Yeah.
How does a city that was a national capital for, over 40 years? How does it successfully navigate losing that status and then redefine its role on the global stage, especially by championing things like sustainability and international cooperation?
That's a great question. What specific strengths or historical threads allowed Bonn to make that pivot so effectively, What can other cities facing maybe similar major shifts learn from its experience, balancing that profound history with building a new internationally focused future?
It's a powerful case study, isn't it?
Definitely something to think about. Consider which part of Bonn's incredible journey or its character today resonates most with you.
Darf ich mal meine Mutter einstellen?
Das abzuhauen. Anlamadım. Makineye attım geçmedi. I'm going down. I need my going down.